What is going on, Rotogrinders? Dean here. It's Dean 7904. If you want to get all technical, I'll meet at 6 o'clock on the East Coast. I still need a haircut. I'm still wearing a dumb hat. It's 3 o'clock on the East Coast. Wait, no, 3 o'clock on the West Coast. 5 o'clock Tennessee time, which, of course, is time for the flagship show here at Rotogrinders. It's called Grinderslive. Joining me today, GPP Savant. That's good enough. Sure, why not? It's Great Neefer. What's going on, dude? Great. You called me before the show. Spoiler alert, we're actually kind of sort of friends in real life. I don't know. Sure, why not? We'll put that out there in the ether. And you told me, you broke the news to me. I thought this was only exclusive to football, but apparently you told me that the slate's been flipped on its head.
I've heard it, to quote the great cash game king. The slate has been flipped on its head.
Yeah, I've never heard it quite in that terms. If you can sort of visualize the slate and have it doing like a 180, I didn't really know how to yeah. All right. If you guys are just joining us, 5-game DFS slate going down tonight. It's going to be a nerve-wracking one, and it's tons of strategy as far as building lineups tonight because it's basically split in two. We're talking about 2 games, 7:30, 8 o'clock. That's why we're on a little bit later. You guys can piece that together. Tip-off time tonight, of course, is 7:30 for the first game, Philadelphia and Brooklyn. Despite the fact that's a national TV game, we do have some players, some stars missing. Well, it's not for rest, but Kyrie Irving is out for personal reasons. He's not going to be playing this evening. Of course, Durant's not playing this evening. So we're still waiting on the starting lineup for Brooklyn. Of course, you guys will get that before lock, but I'm not sure if or when we'll get that throughout the show. Then Cleveland and Memphis. In Cleveland, there's a lot of body parts out in that game as well, too. And then later, some really, really appealing games. We don't know if LeBron's going to play, if Anthony Davis is going to play, if both are going to play, if neither are going to play. We're going to bring SBK on in about 15 minutes or so. He works in our projections team. He's going to talk us through as far as what's going on in Brooklyn and do our best to piece that together. But, Grant, I think one of the most important things to talk about as far as the slate is it's tricky because there's going to be some clear and obvious value, I assume, depending on the starting lineups and all that, with Brooklyn. And then potentially even more than you might expect with Cleveland, whether or not Sexton is out. And how do you balance that with the possibility of what goodness might open up later? And maybe you don't want to fill up too many slots. And then it's like, well, I want to play all these guys late, and I only have 3 spots to fill. So how are you dealing that as far as a slate? That's kind of like my big quandary right now. Well, what say you?
I mean, yeah, that's the biggest problem because obviously we have the Brooklyn news, Kyrie Irving being ruled out, and Karis LeVert essentially becomes an absolute lock button for me. I will have 100% LeVert, which will be close to right about with the field, I'm sure. But yeah, just the usage bump, he's going to get a 38% usage rate. We've seen him in this offense before. This offense even has less than it normally does last year when LeVert was going in and tearing everything apart. He's only 6.8K. You just lock button him in, and it's like Boogie last night. It's pretty much the same type of scenario, slightly more money, but there's almost no way he doesn't end up hitting value.
I think the Boogie play was better because of a 4.3K, but I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, Boogie play was definitely better, but this is kind of the same scenario where I'm just going to lock button him in. It's not even close. It's trying to figure out what value you want to go with around him and what value you want to use after that. And really, it's a tough spot to figure that out. I mean, we don't know what the starting lineup is going to be, so it's kind of hard to talk about at this moment. They could put literally anyone in the starting lineup outside of LeVert and Allen are the only two that are really confirmed at this moment. I think Allen makes a good play. He obviously got 32 minutes the other night, and it was a
crushed,
blowout. Yeah, just absolutely destroyed, which worked out pretty well. But yeah, Jared Allen is the guy that I'd definitely be looking at as a second piece in this game. And then after that, it becomes a little bit tough. Jeff Green, Taurean Prince, both of them are super cheap, but both of them are going to play a ton of minutes. But if this game turns into a blowout, I don't know if they end up doing that, even though they probably have I think we talked about this before the show. They have 11 people.
Yeah, I wouldn't say they're both going to play a ton of minutes. We've seen Taurean Prince throw a start and play 18, 20 minutes or so, and he's not a great fantasy point-minute player. And Jeff Green's another guy who he could start and play 20 minutes or so. And they do have bodies. They have 11 bodies. And I would imagine they would start Joe Harris, but maybe they don't. I don't know why they wouldn't. TLC is kind of sort of somewhat interesting. I mean, Shamit's lurking. Kurix is available. Chioza is a body. So they have 11 guys. It's this tricky thing. And they're also insanely cheap. But you might also get, Bruce Brown out of nowhere was drawing the start, of course. And it came out that basically he liked the matchup versus Donovan Mitchell defensively. And maybe that's the same thought process as they want to throw him on Ben Simmons or something like that. I think that was the first minutes of Bruce Brown all season long. They dusted him off. But again, you might just get a bunch of guys that are super cheap that are going to play about 25, 26 minutes each. Jared Allen against Embiid, in theory, is not a great matchup, but We did see him against the traditional big, and Allen Embiid's also a guy that can draw foul trouble really, really efficiently. And then Allen historically has had his issues sometimes with fouls for sure. And we saw, and part of the reason why he got a little more push last game was because DeAndre Jordan gotten 4 fouls, I think in the first 15 minutes into the game or something like that, whatever it was. He went there and just fouled all over the place. Also, I assume that at this point Nash realizes Jared Allen's just better than DeAndre Jordan. He should realize that, I think. And Jordan's the vet and yada yada, but Allen's your guy going forward. The guy's going to be there for playoff time, I would imagine. It's sort of weird because I don't love anything. I really like LeVert, and he might put up 40 fantasy points and you can survive that. 40, that doesn't mean you have to have him, right? But of course he can put up 55 or so. We've seen how good he is. How many fantasy points when he gathers. When Irving's off the court, Durant's off the court. We saw it last year, of course, and his price got up close to 8K or so last year, and we were still paying it. So I don't see any reason why you don't play him in cash. For sure you'll play LeVert in cash. I was a little bit concerned, actually, because he only played, I think, 10 minutes the first game, the last game, and he didn't play the entire second quarter, which he sometimes does. But you got to think he's in for a pile of minutes tonight. The rest of the body parts, I'll throw it out to the people there in chat. And I see somebody in chat, they were asking about LeVert and cash. Yeah, of course you want to play LeVert and cash. What up, chat? Say hello to chat. What up, YouTube? Subscribe, turn on notifications. Somebody in there, Grant, says I look like Papa Smurf. And you were telling me pre-show that I look younger with this. What's younger? Who's older than Papa Smurf? If I look like Papa Smurf, what did I look at before?
I mean, the average lifespan of a Smurf is roughly 15 years.
No.
So,
is that true?
I have no idea. They're mythical creatures.
You're more of a brainy guy. Yeah. I didn't realize I look young. I'm going to be like that Steve Buscemi gif with the skateboard and say, hey, kids. Yeah. Oh, chat. We're going to be bringing on SBK soon and talking about, we're going to break down the Brooklyn rotation to the best of our knowledge, best of our abilities. He's going to fire some minutes our way. But ask some questions in chat. Devin, our fabulous multitasking producer, is going to be all over him. He's our hockey goalie. If he likes your question, he's going to save him. He's jumping on the show the last 15 minutes or so. Tell us what site you're on and tell us if it's cash or for tournaments. And the broader the question, the better. Grant likes answering the broad. Grant, you don't like 3v3s, right? That's not for you?
That's not for me. But by the way, Papa Smurf was 542 years old.
What? Smash the over on 15.
Twice the age. He had a son at roughly 270 years old.
Who was his son?
And
who was the mother?
I'm assuming Smurfette was.
No. What? No, that's not.
Name the other girl that was a Smurf.
I just think they never talked about her. They never talked. It was really hard. They saw a psychiatrist off air or something, and they didn't talk about the mother. Yeah. Hey, how do we see?
Oh no, Grandpa Smurf was twice his son age.
Okay. Yeah. Well, there you go. Shout out to the Smurfs. Well, we also got this one. Let's not discount it. Seth Curry is not playing basketball this evening. He's out. Tyler Johnson, if you were considering him, he's out for protocol health reasons there for Brooklyn as well. Hopefully he's the only one there on Brooklyn. And again, Kyrie is out for personal reasons. Later on, LeBron is questionable. Davis is questionable. Embiid, earlier this year, he was out on a back-to-back with, I'm doing air quotes here, with a back, right? He was out with a back. And I think he played 37 minutes or so last night. So this is a national TV game. And you know the national TV rules. You're not supposed to be resting your players, and you get penalized, $100,000 fine. We don't know how true the NBA is going to stay to that. And we did see last night, Kyrie did play in a back-to-back. I don't know if that was the reason. He hasn't done it in a long time, but they were on national TV. Cleveland, Sexton, Garland is officially out, right? And Sexton is questionable. So we're looking at Jetty Osman. Or Kuro, we talked about pre-show. What was the fantasy points per minute for Kuro so far this season? It's a small sample, obviously, but 0.3-ish, which is terrible.
6.
Yeah, that's bad. That's bad, right?
Not good.
Not good. Definitely bad. Andre Drummond is one of the top fantasy point minutes players on this season amongst everybody. Amongst the guys getting run. There's probably a couple guys out there that played 5 minutes and whatnot. The tricky part with him, of course, is he's been getting his minutes cut here and there for various reasons. Got a attack and they took him out of the game. JaVale McGee's been crushing sometimes when he comes in. But if Drummond, in theory, gets his 31, 32, 33 minutes here, averaging 1.5 fantasy points per minute, basically a lock as far as a double-double, getting that bonus on DK. Again, with the caveat of it's the second game on the slate, and Drummond could be taking the spot of LeBron. Multi-position eligibility, understand that. And LeBron might be nothing. It's just LeBron and AD might both play. But we'll get into this. It's the first of a back-to-back for the Lakers. It's the first game of the start of a 3 games in 4 nights. So, and LeBron's been questionable all season. Davis has not been questionable all season. So I think Davis is more likely to sit than LeBron. But truthfully, I don't know. Let's talk about the Cavs. Your thoughts as far as Drummond. What if Sexton is out? We also have, who's the other guy that's out this evening? No. Questionable is Damian Dotson. So we have our eye on that as well.
Yeah, no, it's another interesting spot. Drummond stands out as a great point per minute player, but I'm kind of waiting to see where ownership ends up coming on him. I currently have him pegged at 32%, but obviously SBK and everyone else is working on that, trying to get the exacts of it in there. So he's a little tough one to figure out. 8.4K is too underpriced when you consider his upside, especially if Sexton's going to be out. You have to assume that he's going to eat up a bunch of the usage and play minutes. Always wondering if it's going to stay close or not. I expect it to. I think they're currently 6 point or 5.5 point dog right now, but I still think it'll stay close enough. But Drummond's sitting there at 8.4K. If he's going to draw a ton of ownership, I don't know if I'm going to go with him unless Sexton is out. It's just real simple. Like, he has had some off games. He can get into foul trouble. Any number of things can end up happening where he doesn't end up hitting value. Like, we look at the last 4 games. Granted, McGee had something to do with that. I think blowout had something to do with that on one of them, but 42, 37, 25, 37. Yes, I get this is a different situation. It's a different matchup. It's a better matchup, but he still can end up not making value. It's just, I haven't built lineups yet. Right now, like, everything is entirely changed. I was mostly on Kyrie, and now I'm not. So all this news came in slightly before the show, but as of right now, like, you can take a shot. I like CD more than probably anyone on that team, but you can play CD, you can play Nance, you can play Drummond. I'm not sure I want to go with any.
Jetty. It's Jetty.
CD. I read things phonetically, sir. Yeah, you can play any of them. Just you kind of have to wait and see on the Sexton news because that'll change things pretty drastically too. This entire slate is just bananas, absolute bananas.
Yeah, how would you spell that out?
Bananas.
Yeah, so I think Osman's probably a better play on FanDuel for what it's worth, 5.2K as opposed to 5.7K. A little bit more interesting on that site. You could certainly play him on DK as well, too. And by the way, as far as Curry being out, we're projecting Tyrese Maxey to draw the start. Currently right now, that's not official, but that's according to our projections. Of course, we'll get that at some point. If not us, crunch time after us, we'll get that, and they'll talk about it. Tyrese Maxey on the season for what it's worth. You can pull up the old the court IQ here on Rotogrinders.com, and Tyrese Maxey in 121 minutes is averaging 1.73 DK points per minute. Yeah, and I still think there's a chance. I think there's a chance Embiid doesn't play, but probably not. Probably not. I'm assuming he plays the back-to-back, but kind of sort of stay tuned on that. If he doesn't, I guess you can play Dwight Howard. I think Jared Allen becomes a much better play too, just because. I like him better. There's only so many minutes Howard's going to play out there. Howard is a viable backup, viable big these days for sure, but I think it is a bump to Jared Allen. As far as cheapies go, like if Tyrese Maxey draws to start, it doesn't feel like there's a lot of upside in that. Like he's a guy that can eke his way to 20-ish, right? But is that good enough if you want to lock in as a first game of the slate on a slate that has good stuff that might get even better? That's sort of where I'm at on that.
Yeah, so I'd rather go with 2 players than Maxey. Like, I get Maxey is cheap, and he's probably going to draw the start, although it could end up being Thibault. It could end up being anyone. But the 2 guys I'm really looking at over on Philly right now is Shake Milton.
Ooh.
Only played 20 minutes the last game, like I'm getting 26. I think Seth Curry not being on the floor will end up getting him a little bit of a bump in minutes. Obviously, a little bump in usage. So Milton's probably my favorite play over there. And then I don't like saying this.
Oh, no, it's not Thibault, is it?
No.
Is it Toby Harris?
He's starting. He's cheap.
Danny Green?
Yeah.
He doesn't get any additional usage pushes. Well, he might get a few more open threes potentially like that. That's what Curry does, and that's basically with Danny Green. You kind of need to get those threes early, and the stocks as well too. It's the only way he gets there. But again, a guy later like a Kuzma or something like that could be more interesting depending on how news breaks. But is he better than Juancho Hernan-Gomez? I don't think so.
You can play both, and he's cheaper.
Yeah, it's not. But it's not that much more as far as the asking price, as far as the difference. But I just hate the idea, and I hear what you're saying about locking in a Danny Green at 7:30, first game on a slate that might get goofy. And again, Cleveland might fully open if Sexton doesn't play. But if Sexton and Dotson don't play, like what happens in Cleveland? Is it going to be Jetty just running the point, like basically point forward? Maybe Nance can handle the ball a little bit. I think Nance becomes even more interesting. Or they might just get blown out, but then still like Dean Wade. They don't D Wade. We're not calling him. He doesn't get the D Wade name, right? I don't think so.
I don't think so. I think that's by someone else. But in a 17-minute sample size, Danny Green does have a 9% usage bump.
Oh, are we getting excited over that?
Well, no, he's 3.7K. He's gotten over 22 points in each of the last 3 outings. I assume that he might get a little bit of an increase in terms of minutes here. Like he's obviously a 3-and-D guy, and Curry is taking most of the 3-point shots right now, and he's been absolutely crushing. He'll be sitting on the outside. I think he gets the ball spit out to him a little bit more. I think he takes more shots in the spot because Seth Curry's the guy in that offense that likes to create his own shot there and shoot from behind the arc. So I think that Danny Green actually I'm not buying the 9% usage bump. That's not something you need to look into too much because it's a 17-minute sample size. But I think that he does end up with a usage bump. They are going to use him more, I think, because they will have to do a little bit more on offense. It's a pace-up game, and they'll probably still run at a high pace even without Durant and Kyrie in the offense. Like, I'm waiting to see where ownership lies on him, and it's currently 17%.
Yeah, they're tinkering right now because all the news is coming in. So, we have the ownership stuff. It's probably going to become more and more refined the closer and closer we get the lock. I would just suggest I would throw out that maybe the shots become even more condensed for Embiid, Harris, and Simmons. Like that's also possible too. All right, we got Keach. He's going to sort through this for us. Keach, we appreciate you joining us. Of course, in the projections team here at Rotogrinders.com. Working hard at Lineup HQ. We caught you at a great time scrambling for Brooklyn. Probably waiting for some Cleveland news as well. Keach, thanks for coming on and tell us what's going to happen in Brooklyn because we're a little confused.
Well, I think we'll see kind of something similar to what we saw, I believe, 2 games ago or whatever last time that Durant and Kyrie were both out. Obviously, Karis LeVert is probably going to be the most popular play on the slate now. Jared Allen is remaining in the starting lineup, which I was kind of unsure how they would handle that. He played awesome in the last game. But I think DeAndre Jordan probably matches up a little bit better with Embiid. Mm-hmm. But we will still get, more Jared Allen does make him more viable. Although I do think DeAndre still has a tiny, tiny bit of GPP appeal. But also we'll see more TLC. I think he's kind of been more viable when we have seen both Kyrie and KD out. Bruce Brown's likely to still be a thing. So it's going to be weird in Brooklyn. I'm still kind of, I think Embiid is going to play, it looks like, but I'm still kind of like just nervously anticipating them making like a last second type of switch there. So keeping my ears peeled there.
How good do you feel about the starting lineup we currently have projected as LeVert, Brown, Prince, Green, and Allen? Like we saw Brown get dusted off. He didn't play the entire season until that last game. And I don't understand why Harris is on the bench. I feel like they would probably need him, especially with Kyrie. I feel like he would draw the start here. What do we currently have him for? And, of course, this will change. We got him projected for 28 minutes and coming off the bench. That's what I'm seeing right now. And possibly even more, I imagine, if we see a starting lineup. And Nash is just like screwing around and having fun, right? It's like he was saying he likes Brown as far as the matchup against Mitchell, and maybe he just enjoys the challenge as a coach to like not have these good players and just seeing what pieces fit and seeing what he has at his disposal. The occasion may come up, but this is super fluid, I guess is what I'm getting at as far as these minutes projection on Brooklyn.
Yeah, I mean, there's some uncertainty kind of baked in there. We're obviously not 100% sure. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised at all if they kind of started with something. Well, obviously it would be different from the last game, but something different than what we're expecting now. I can definitely see Harris back in the starting lineup, especially assuming LeVert gets back in there. So yeah, it's just kind of, it's a different group tonight. Obviously a different matchup as well. And obviously Nash is trying to play around with things a little bit. So I'm not super confident that what we have projected right now for starting lineup is what it'll turn out to be. But yeah, so we're there's a little bit of hedging going on with some of the minute projections, but yeah, just kind of have to go and wait and see on that one.
All right, talk to me about Cleveland. We've seen Drummond's minutes go all over the place, but if you project him for a 31, 32, he should absolutely smash here. But that's not the conversation. Dotson is questionable. Sexton's questionable. Garland is already out. Like, if all three of those guys are out, and we don't even know, and I don't know how you project for it right now. I think you're projected in, and then you'll adjust accordingly. We'll get that news soon enough. Like, who runs the point? Is it point forward for Jetty Osman? Is it like Larry Nance that runs some point here for Cleveland if all those guys are out? What are you looking here with the Cavs?
So, yeah, we do have both Sexton and Dotson projected in right now. Even with Sexton there, the last 2 games, Chetty Osman has had 7 assists in each, and I think it's 7 of about 21 assists maybe that they've had. So he's commanding a pretty big chunk of those numbers, and that's with Sexton on the floor. So they just have obviously very little in terms of guards, period, behind the 2 guys who are questionable. So I think he'll definitely handle the ball a decent amount. We'll see Lamar Stevens play as big of a role as he's played to this point in the year. Maybe Okoro handles the ball a tiny little bit, something we had talked about, but he's, from a per minute perspective, couldn't be any worse to this point. So, yeah, obviously the offense will run through Drummond a bit more, but Larry Nance is another candidate. So a lot of names there that are possible options to see more ball handling. But I think Chetty's probably the guy that is the best in that regard. I think he'll probably lead the team in assists when all's said and done.
Grant, you got anything for SBK, or are we going to let him get out of here and do some work?
You got a lot of work to do. Get out of here, buddy.
All right, guys. Thank you. I appreciate it. Have a good one.
Thanks for coming on. Crush it tonight. Grant, by the way, do you think it's a little weird? I don't know. You probably know the line because you're betting all sorts of things. And actually, you bet it pre-show, I think, before the news broke, or as the news broke. Why do I think Philly should be favored by more than 4 against this Brooklyn team?
Because everyone thinks that. So the line, originally when the news came out, I put like 500 on Philly minus 1.5, knowing that worst case scenario, things go different ways. I can always hedge out for a small profit, but I'm not planning on doing that. The line's currently sitting at -4. It started at -3.5. Some places put it off at -4.5. And it's really at every single site kind of put or stayed at -4 ever since the Curry news came out. So the big thing is Philly's on the second end of a back-to-back. That was a massive pace game, tons of possessions. And on top of that, Embiid played 30 minutes. Simmons played like 36 minutes. I actually got it up right here. Yeah, Curry obviously out, but played 36. Harris played 41. Like, there's a reason why the spread is as close as it is right now. They know that LeVert can take over the entirety of the offense. Like, we've seen a Brooklyn team last year that's very similar to this many times. They kept games close. They actually did decent. Granted, they don't have Dinwiddie in there, but that just means that more work for LeVert. They have situational players all the way across the lineup. So the fact that it's a 4-point spread, that's the second lowest spread on this entire slate. Assuming that they're going to get blown out, which is why some people I don't think are going to play certain players in this game, is ridiculous because, first of all, every game this season has a chance at a blowout. Mostly, like, this is a low spread. If you don't think that if you think this game's going to blow out, here's how you hedge. Go set a whole bunch of lineups with a lot of guys from this game, and then go bet Philly -4. That's it. That's all you have to do.
And then Brooklyn beats them by 20, and then you're screwed both ways.
Yeah, you're right.
There goes. What's plan C? So I was telling you this pre-show. In my head, I have LeBron playing and Davis out tonight. That's just a guess. I have no idea. I may or may not have the almanac or the precogs. I don't. I like to pretend like I have the almanac though. Is that your read? Do you think that's what's going to happen? KCP, by the way, still questionable, I believe, and Caruso is available. Is that correct?
I think
Unless
so,
things
yeah.
have changed. Yeah. So again, plan accordingly on that. And also, I kind of referenced one of the players in this game, Minnesota and Portland. The two, I guess Washington's in the middle as far as the defensive rating this year, Grant, right? Minnesota and Portland, two of the top 3 when it comes to the worst teams when it comes to defensive rating, playing against each other. 234 is the total. Yes, Minnesota's a 10-point dog here, and we've seen them get walloped multiple times this season, but Portland doesn't really look spectacular. Lillard's not really the same. McCollum's been great. Nurkic has been up and down. I'll just say this, by the way. One of Nurkic or Kanter is going to crush. I don't know which one it is. Which one is it going to be? I think they're both really, really interesting. Who's going to do it?
I think it's Nurk.
Is this going to be? It's going to be his best night of the season so far. It's only like 7 or 8 games, but I mean, look, Ed Davis, the likes of Ed Davis, Vanderbilt's look good, by the way. I think Vanderbilt's a really, really interesting punt. I was going through the court IQ and checking out how many minutes he's played. He played like 14 or 15 in the second half last game. Ed Davis is obviously not the future of this team. Minnesota's going nowhere. And Vanderbilt, they want to see what they have in him. He's been a really strong fantasy point minute player as well, too. And he's also blowout proof. If you need I think Vanderbilt is a better punt than the early guys, like a Maxey or even like a Danny Green. Right now, I feel better about Vanderbilt as far as lineup construction and all that. And that's if you're scrambling for a cheapie. If your plan of a couple guys being out late blows up in your face, like I did last night with the Clippers, everybody ended up playing, and all of a sudden your great plays became like not as good of plays, obviously. Vanderbilt's the one I got in my back pocket. Is like if I need to make things work, I think he's kind of sort of somewhat interesting, and also Juancho Hernangomez on that side as well too. D'Angelo Russell, I just have I don't think well of him, and I wish I can take that personal bias. I just don't think he's very good. I think he's one of those guys that scores fantasy points but doesn't actually help a team win. He's one like a Bobby Portis, I guess you can say, or Andre Drummond. What is it? This feels like a really, really strong game stacked. I feel better about the Minnesota pieces than the Portland pieces, just because I guess prices. What's your thoughts?
So, that's pretty much what Minnesota is for me. It's a 10-point spread. I'm going all or nothing. Like Hernangomez has come in at, I don't even know what he's going to come in at anymore. We currently have him pegged for 20%. Obviously, before the Irving news and all this stuff changed, he was going to come in at a fairly high ownership after he's crushing the other night, but it wasn't necessarily guaranteed that he's going to crush again. Yes, he had 44 points the other night. He did play 34 minutes, but there's a chance of a blowout going up against Portland, which could eat into his minutes pretty drastically. He shot 10 for 14 from the field, including 5 for 8 from beyond the arc. Like, yes, he got a few steals and blocks too, which isn't really normal. He had just as many stocks last game as he's had the entire rest of the season. So nothing is really guaranteed here with his minutes or his production. I'm relying on him going off if he ends up playing the entire game and if this game stays close. So the core of probably 3 of my teams is going to be very Minnesota Portland centric. It's going to be one of Beasley and Russell, and then one of Hernangomez or Vanderbilt or both. Bring it back on the other side with 2 of Nurkic, Lillard, McCollum, and then maybe Cantor, and maybe Covington. It is the revenge narrative there with Covington. Ooh. And this is a fast-paced, bad defensive matchup, so a lot of blown assignments, a lot of running and gunning, which could fit in very well with Covington's style of play, especially in
3-and-D.
Yeah.
Stocks.
So it's pretty much like that's what I'm doing. Like I'm stacking up. Probably 60% of my lineups are going to be stacking up the Portland Minnesota game.
You prefer Lillard or McCollum? You got to pick one.
I prefer Lillard very slightly. It's whatever fits realistically. Like McCollum makes a decent pivot off of Drummond because they're in the same price range, and positional scarcity isn't really a thing considering how much value we have at almost every single spot here. And outside of LeVert, there's not going to be a super chalky guy on this slate as of right now in my mind.
McCollum on the season averaging 1.33 fantasy points per minute, DK. Lillard 1.22 for what it's worth.
Jack's in the chat.
Who's in the chat?
Jack, winning 247 or 24/7, if you will, spelled wrong.
What up, Jack? You pronounced his name correctly despite it being funky phonetically.
I mean,
I'm surprised you don't say whining.
It's spelled phonetically.
Yeah, well.
There's no H. It's not whining. It's winning.
The H is implied. What's up, Jack? Hey, so you know who else is going to be joining the show in about 5 to 7 minutes, give or take? D-Train, Devin.
I love that guy.
Yeah, I like him too. Be nice to him because he can make us look good or really bad too, or better, I guess you can say.
I'm not nice to you. I'm very nice to him.
I don't know if he's messing with the sound or we're just kind of working out that way, but your computer's getting all funky, so nobody will hear. Nobody really heard what you said. Back to Vanderbilt for a second. I did want to say he's been awesome fantasy point per minute wise. And again, as a cheapie, I think he's kind of sort of someone interesting and somebody that I can default to late if I have to. If things just kind of implode in my face. 1.42 fantasy points per minute in 67 minutes this season. He's got a bump in minutes last time out. Ed Davis is not the future. Ed Davis may draw the start once again, but he almost definitely, that's a revenge game for Ed Davis too. He almost definitely does not close. You mentioned Covington and like Derrick Jones Jr. Like those are guys I played on FanDuel just because to make things work, and they just get there through stocks. Like, come on, Derrick Jones, get me those 4 steals and maybe you get a dunk. Super athletic, but doesn't shoot very well. The Spurs are playing basketball this evening. Do we care? Like, do we like anybody on the Spurs?
No, it's not a good matchup. Like if you want to do a one-off with Johnson, DeRozan, like DeJounte Murray, they can offer you some upside, but it's not a good matchup going up against the Lakers. This game has a chance to blow out like every single other one. We don't know news, so like I think where you throw DeRozan in is if you kind of have to make up some ground later on, and you can pivot off of McCollum over to DeRozan because McCollum is going to come in at way higher ownership than DeRozan, I'd expect. And likewise, you can swap off of Beasley to Johnson. But that's the only reason you're really doing it. Or if you're stacking up the Lakers game, hoping it stays close, hoping that either James or Davis end up getting ruled out. By the way, as long as you have them in your guard, forward, or utility spot, just go 100% LeBron James, and then it's an easy switch. Or just leave 200, go Anthony Davis and leave 200 on the board, and you can easily switch anything in that game.
I see the chat. It's a Boban night tonight. I did not consider. I know you love Boban. I would love me some Boban as well too. He's on that. What is it called? Why can't I think of the app? Or they can get like a personal shout out. How am I forgetting this word? Say it again.
Cameo.
Yeah. I think you got a Carol Baskin one. Maybe you should get yourself a Boban because he does those. At least he did last time I checked.
Me and my buddy got a Chris Hansen one together.
Oh, is that right? Did you get it for
I don't
anybody?
remember his name.
Did you get it for somebody else, or how'd that work?
I don't know. It's irrelevant. It was all my idea.
It was all that's the most important thing. It was very clever, and you thought of it. I don't have a good read in this Dallas situation. I just saw somebody in chat say Boban. And hey, if you guys are asking questions in chat, or feel free to ask questions in chat. Devin, again, I was mentioning he's joining the show in about 4 minutes or so. He's compiling those questions. Tell us two things: is it cash game? Is it tournaments? That's one thing.
Sexton
the other thing
expected to play. Dotson expected to play.
Okay, all right, interesting. Sexton might play 35 minutes. Like, we should acknowledge that's interesting. And like, he's going to handle the ball a good bit. Just saying. But I just want to mention this. I was talking about, I just got completely derailed there for a second. Jones on Memphis. I'm a little bit concerned about. I think he might take a slight hit with Melton. We saw the Jones and Melton. They jumped on and off for each other last game. And I think it was 32-16 was the split, minus like 20 seconds or something like that. I feel like Melton's going to take a little bit more, just a little bigger bite. And I think I'm pushing Jones back to like 28 minutes in my head, just sort of throwing that one out there. So not as appealing, and a slight hit to Anderson as well too. Clark's one of those kind of sort of glue guys where, like, I guess if he makes the lineup fit, so be it. I'm okay with him. I don't think he wins it for you. I don't think he loses it for you. What was I getting? Oh, the Lakers. Let's talk about the Lakers, because in my head, one of these studs are sitting out tonight. I think it's Davis. Again, we talked about it first. Start of a back-to-back. Start of a three games in 4 nights. So no matter what, Demolition Man Dennis Schroeder is a perfectly fine, decent play on FanDuel. If one of those guys is out, he's a really strong player. Both are somehow, he's like the nuts. You got to love Dennis Schroeder. I like him more so on FanDuel than on DK. You can play him on DK, sure, but I think FanDuel he fits better. He's got a better asking price as well. And THT, Talon Horton Tucker is another guy who might get some additional run if Davis is out. Same deal with Kuzma. Kuzma on the season, 0.78 fantasy points per minute. THT at 0.94. Your favorite Laker cheapie who do you have your eyes on, like pending X scenario?
I mean, it's kind of like there's 3 scenarios, so it all depends. Like if James is out, if Davis is out, Schroeder becomes a good play. Schroeder becomes a great play if James ends up sitting out. Like if Davis is out, you can if it's Horton, it's Kuzma, it's Schroeder. All of them get a massive value bump if either one of these guys is out. But the problem is there's a lot of value on the slate. Like Horton Tucker, I don't know if I want to play considering how many other good plays there are, and I don't want to have to sit and wait and hope that one of them's out. Again, I love Danny Green today, which is probably going to blow up in my face terribly, but I'd rather play him than any of them.
Why you want to force Danny Green in a 5-game slate where it's the first game and you're begging for 25 fantasy points? Why do you want to force that?
Because I don't think he's going to be that heavily owned, and I think
for good reason.
How so?
Well, what do you think his usage is? He's got basically you're betting on him hitting 6 threes, which he can do. But what makes you think that's going to happen tonight?
So Danny Green is very different in this offense than he was with the Lakers. He's going to be utilized differently. Philly doesn't have an ability to create their own shot that often, so they're going to be driving the hoop a little bit more going up against Brooklyn, who does not have a lot of great interior defenders. They're probably going to be spitting the ball out to Danny Green quite a bit. He's had over 22 points in each of his last 3 matchups. He was one of the few guys that didn't play in the high 30s in minutes last night, so I'm guessing he's going to get more run tonight. He's a guy that can do everything on the offensive end. They might end up throwing him on LeVert, so they might need him for more minutes. There's a whole bunch of different reasons why Danny Green ends up playing a bunch of minutes and actually doing well tonight. He's going to he could end up with nothing. He very well could end up with nothing. But his situation in this offense is very different than it was over in the Lakers, because guess what? LeBron and Davis could do everything over there. When he was over in Toronto, they had Lowry, they had VanVleet, they had all sorts of different playmakers the entire time. Danny Green is now in a Philadelphia offense that was inept on offense last year, and now he's pretty much basically a much better offensive player than Richardson is in this offense. I'm not saying overall, but in this offense, he fits in a lot better.
All right, let's bring Devin. What are you doing with Danny Green tonight? Devin, are you with us? He probably wasn't ready. He's going to join the show.
You threw that one on me quick, Dean.
Well, hey, look, you want your 15 minutes of fame. We're at 14 minutes now and counting as far as asking questions. So, and I wanted to, I wanted you to break the tie as far as Danny Green.
I'll give you a classic Dean answer for Danny Green today.
10%?
No. Just a low groan.
Yeah, nobody's ever excited about hitting the button for Danny Green. Never.
But that's why Grant plays him, because Grant's in tournaments and he does that.
But he's an enthusiastic guy, and there's no enthusiasm in clicking. Well, fair enough. All right, whatever.
And
I still may play him begrudgingly. To be clear, I'm not happy about it. Just understand.
He's 3.7K. Okay, he's averaging 26 points, 27 points per game the last 3. It makes it work on a slate that you want to play all the studs, and every single value play has a question mark behind it.
The 5-game slate, I think that's a good point to bring up. But
fire off some questions.
Yeah, we'll get to questions. Eric would like to know, how cold is it in Florida where you need a hoodie and a hat?
Well, I keep the place fairly cool, and I like to have a fan next to me at all times as well.
Oh, what,
too.
You think you're better than me because you have AC?
Yeah, well, yeah, it's technology. I got a fan and some grapes. You can't see the grapes off cam, but I got a grape grill just in case.
I would say you need all that cool air for all those lights you have on, but you're just in the dark over there, Dean.
You have seen me before the show sometimes where my lights aren't on. I'm just
the Dean cave. It's a very intimidating thing to find.
It's 74. I don't know. Well, there you go.
High School Hoops would like to know, would you try going with both Jokic and Luka tonight?
Grant, how have we not talked about Jokic? He's amazing. He's incredible. I love Jokic. I absolutely love him. I think you can play him and Nurkic as well. As far as the lineup construction, I like both plays. So sure, yes. Grant?
Yeah, you can play all the studs. You can play Luka, you can play Jokic, you can play Davis or LeBron, whoever ends up playing. The problem is we don't know who's going to end up playing. You can play Dame, you can play Russell, you can play McCollum. All of the stuff, and even Drummond, even with Sexton in the game, he is still in play. The problem is Jokic is a little bit more expensive than the rest of these guys, where Lillard's priced at 9.3K, McCollum's 8.7, Drummond's 8.3, LeBron's 9.8. There's price tags all over the board there, and Jokic is sitting up there at a pretty high price tag, absolutely worth it. But it's tough to play him at 10.9K. He can absolutely get there, and there's value opening up. I will play him. It's just he's priced accordingly.
All right, jump in here.
Solid answer. Nate wants to know, are you likely to fade the first game other than LeVert?
No, absolutely not. I'm playing a lot of Danny Green. I'll be playing a little bit of Tobias Harris. I think it's the biggest boost out of these guys without Seth Curry in the lineup. But I'll be playing Danny Green, I'll be playing Tobias, I'll be playing LeVert, I'll be playing Jared Allen. I'm probably staying away from most of the rest of the Brooklyn players, unless we get news on the starting lineup. I could potentially see playing Bryce Brown, TLC, depending on if I need to pay it for studs.
Smash that like button if we get your question, and just go ahead and smash it. Why aren't you? Chris wants to know, Chris Chiozza or Campazzo on FanDuel value?
Oh no.
No?
Start over. No, start over.
Campazzo's
more fun. He's 5'8".
We got a take with it too. We got double on that one. Value. Both will get over 29 fantasy points to add your
the line's moving slightly on the Philly game, by the way. It's only at 4.5, but
meaning what? Oh, meaning in favor of Philly?
Yeah.
Don't play either one of those guys.
Yeah.
In conclusion, Doug wants to know, is LeBron okay FanDuel Cash? I can't imagine how he wouldn't be.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like, well, he wouldn't be if he doesn't play.
If that if that questionable doesn't fall the way it normally does.
But he's played, I think, every single game so far this year. Every time he's been questionable, turns into probable. He's a fine play as is. If Davis is out, he's a phenomenal play.
Yeah, and you can always swap over to Davis. Just make sure if you're playing him in cash, put him in the forward or guard spot or utility. Don't have him.
Not FanDuel, though, Grant. He was asking about FanDuel.
Yeah.
That makes it tricky.
It's a fun night for late swap for sure.
Yeah.
Would you lean more Jokic or Luka FanDuel tournaments?
How did we not talk about Luka? It's amazing. It's a 5. What did we talk about the whole time, Grant?
I mean, we talked about the other important, like Luka's a great play. Like I prefer Jokic.
We talked about Danny Green, the important parts.
Well, yeah. It's funny because we don't want to insult the people that are. They know like Jokic is great. They know Luka is great. And we're trying to figure out how to make those guys work or how to put them in the lineups, right? If you can, I know they're different positions, Grant, but if you can just pick one of those two, who do you prefer?
Jokic.
All right. Eric wants to know, are we stacking the Cavs tonight?
No, not with Sexton in there. I'm fine with Drummond and Sexton and even Seti. But
what about Larry Nance?
Yeah, Larry Nance is fine. He's my least favorite out of it.
That's kind of where I'm at, too. If I land on him, so be it. But I think, assuming Sexton's fine, he can play 35 minutes here in this game. And Drummond as well, assuming barring goofiness, it's a back-to-back, and we've seen some weird things. We've seen JaVale go off when he comes in the game and spark the team, and Drummond just kind of chill on the bench. But again, he's a phenomenal point-minute player. He's too cheap on DK. Like his DK price is really, really appealing. And if optimals are going to tell you to play him in cash, and I understand why you'd be hesitant, but at the same time, it's a math play. If he plays 32 minutes here, he should absolutely smash.
All right, friend of the show, Flo, wants to know, favorite lock value play tonight?
Danny Green.
I mean, my stuff is just kind of sort of if. I still like Juancho, more so on DK than on FanDuel. I think Dennis Schroeder is a fabulous play on FanDuel, assuming one of those. I feel like Davis is not going to play, so I like him a lot on FanDuel. And I also like Beasley. I think Beasley's got a really good price on FanDuel as well.
Would you set a Malik Beasley and D'Angelo Russell max of 1 player group rule in lineup HQ?
I
would only do that unless you're bringing it back with multiple Portland players.
Fair enough. Winning friend of the show, Jack, as well, wants to know thoughts on Grizzlies. What did you guys talk about?
Well, I said I don't like Tyus Jones. That was he's kind of one of those mid-tier guys, and I just feel like Melton's going to bite a few extra minutes off him, and maybe Tyus Jones only plays like 28.
Cleveland plays at a slow pace, and for some reason, they're the best defensive team in the league right now.
Because of JaVale.
Because of JaVale.
Sounds like another Danny Green take. Eric wants to know FanDuel tournament. Thoughts on stacking Denver-Dallas game? Seems underowned.
They're third for the record, by the way. Cleveland is third defensive rating. Philadelphia playing tonight is number 1. Lakers playing tonight is number 2. What was your question again, Devin? I apologize.
In one ear and out the other. FanDuel tournament. Thoughts on stacking Denver-Dallas?
Grant, tournaments, all you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You can go, I don't mind Hardaway with the 6-man role. I like Luka. Barton, Jokic are both good plays. You can go a whole lot of different ways. Both Dallas and Denver and Minnesota and Portland are my 2 game stack games of the night. So I'm just going to be mostly stacking those based on what value is fully opened up, which as of this moment right now, looks like we have enough news outside of the Lakers game where it should be easy to do, but I'm going to be definitely swapping around quite a bit later on in the night.
I don't have a good read on it, but Kleber or WCS, Willie Cauley-Stein, one of those guys should be, pretty reasonable tonight. I just don't know who it is. I don't feel good about it, but there is, if you're rolling 150, I think you get a piece of each one of those guys, especially if you're stacking that game.
All right, Joey wants to know, what are your thoughts on Landry Shamet?
Fine.
Not positive. I'm sure he's a nice guy, but
under 0.
Yeah, I mean, there's still plenty of bodies on Brooklyn. With TLC as a body there off the bench. Chioza kind of poo-pooed rostering, but he's probably going to play a few minutes. What is Shamet going to play? 20 minutes or so? No, we're not playing Shamet.
Somebody wants to know if we can get a chug bet from Grant. Here's one. How about this? Grant chugs a beer, or Dean has to shave part of his head.
Oh, I'm going to do that anyway. I bought the quarantine clippers.
There you go. So we can do it
go
tomorrow
full-on
live
shave,
on the
Dean?
show.
Would that be interesting?
I think people would tune in. It's you guys tomorrow, so.
Oh boy. Well, great.
Lock
Okay,
lock it.
I will just take a line. Like, right. Just look what's going on here. It's insane, isn't it? Yeah. So
not as long as mine.
I can't.
Look how long mine is.
Well,
We're
we all
talking about
know.
her hair,
We know
right?
Dean does. Dean, this is a
I
fancy
can't see the
show.
video. I don't know what he's doing over there.
Dean, we know you don't like chugging beers, so how about the hair shave? Anyway, let's get a beer, Grant. Beer.
Can I get
bet,
somebody
Grant.
against Danny Green? Who can I pick against Danny Green that's acceptable?
Landry Shambit.
Dude, I'll give you Hernan
No,
Gomez.
I don't want Landry Shamitz.
I'll give you Hernan Gomez. He's 700 more, and we'll go straight up points.
Oh man, is that the best? Yeah.
I'll
I
give
do
you
like
Vanderbilt
Wancho.
if you want.
That's kind of that there's a low floor on Vanderbilt, but he's really interesting.
I
for
like how
tournaments.
you say, like, don't play Danny Green, and then every value player, like, no, I don't
like
want
that guy though.
Well, because Grant, these guys are playing later, and like I feel like later is more fun to me, and like I still have a chance. I'm not necessarily eliminated.
We'll
when
lock
Danny
that
Green puts up
in before
17
we hit
points.
credits.
Yeah.
Eric wants to know anyone in on Ricky Rubio at 1%.
No.
No.
So
He's washed.
solid no from both hosts. How about a little milkshake instead of green? Says Ronnie. Should get a nice bump with no curry.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I like honestly, he's the guy that's going to. He's also, I've talked about him a bit before. He didn't play a ton of minutes last night, so with everyone playing high 30s, low 40s, he could end up with some extra run tonight without Curry.
What?
Pop into that position.
What is it,
and do
Grant?
some,
Stop. What's
advanced
going?
Harris.
Your internet's
Rick-
being delivered by a bird.
He just told us the other day, like, oh, I got this super whatever. He was bragging about how fast his internet was. Did he get cut off? Did you not pay the bill, Grant? What's going on?
No, there's a problem with my router, and I didn't. Last time I tried to set it up, a new one, it put my internet out for 2 days. So I'm waiting until Saturday to put in my new router.
Dean, your technical qualities are rubbing off on Grant. You guys are doing too many shows together.
I see the chat by the way saying if Chiozza draws a start, is he a play? And like, I just don't know. Like, why would Chiozza may start and he's not good, but like, then that means like what Brown doesn't start? Like, I don't know what Nash is gonna do. So, but like, I working under the theory that Chiozza doesn't start, and even if he does, he still might play only 22 minutes. I don't know what to do with these broken guys. I'd be lying if I did not see Bruce Brown as we were going off the air the other day. Like, Bruce Brown is drawing the start. Okay, like I forgot he was even on the Brooklyn, to be honest. But yeah, I don't know what to do with these Brooklyn cheapies. It's hard to feel comfortable about any of them.
All right, let's get a slate question in. What is the most you'd leave on the table for a tournament tonight?
Well, Grant, so the interesting thing is you might be setting yourself up for stuff that's late that doesn't necessarily happen. You might be forced to just leave 900 on the table because that's the best you can do. But generally speaking, for basketball, I am not going to leave more than like 600-700. Grant?
Yeah, no, I'm exact same page. Like, I don't want to do that. And there's 3 separate games all starting at the same time. So edits should make things pretty easily.
Lamar Stevens is a person. I just see a question in chat. Sorry, Devin, but he's a person who may get some run tonight, blowout proof as well, and he's a flat out punt. I don't know much about him. I can just tell you, like, as far as his fantasy points so far this season. Grant, I'm not sure if you considered Lamar Stevens. He'd be more interesting if Sexton wasn't playing, is my answer.
Who?
Lamar Stevens. He's a person.
Yeah. Play Danny Green.
Grant's clearly not listening to you.
0.84 fantasy points in the season in a sample size of 42 minutes for what it's worth.
All right, let's get TLC or Jared Vanderbilt for Ryan.
I mean, we have to wait and see on the lineup.
Who's starting? Yeah.
Yeah.
If
As
he's
of right
starting,
now,
yeah, go ahead.
yeah, it's Vanderbilt as of right now. But if he gets a start, then I'd go with TLC.
All right, hit us with your favorite 3 players for FanDuel, and then we got to lock that bet in.
Oh boy. I mean, I like Schroeder at his price, of course. LeVert. Let's see, who else did I have on my FanDuel build that I liked? And it's all blown up in my face. I like LeBron if he plays for sure. It's also like Brandon Clark is fine if he makes everything else work. He's not going to ruin your team tonight, I don't think. I don't think he wins it either, but he puts up around 28 fantasy points, give or take. But like LeVert is the cheat answer, and that is the answer. And I think Schroeder and Beasley at shooting guard. I'm good with both those guys. Grant, you have an answer?
LeVert, Allen, and Shake.
Quick and easy. Smash that like button. Dean, take us home and get that bet. Don't leave that.
Oh man, am I really gonna shave my? At least I'll put like one line through my head or something. I can't do like the touch ups and all that, but I'll take a line to my head. Like, sure, why not? And I'll just do the rest on my own leisure. But yeah, I guess you're taking Danny Green, the solid floor of Danny Green, and I'm taking the solid floor of Juancho Hernan-Gomez. You'll be, I guess, chugging a beverage. I will be shaving my head, or at least part of my head. I'll pull like a Road Warriors thing, animal or hawk. Not really sure which one. Stay tuned for that. Do want to ask you guys to hit that lock button. No, not the lock button. The lock buttons. No. Hit
The lock button is reserved for Danny Green.
Wait, what?
The lock button is reserved for Danny Green.
Oh, man, that's really a terrible idea. Lock button and Danny Green do not mix, do not make a lot of sense. Stay tuned for Crunch Time. We're going to tell you what's going on as far as the lineups. I assume lineups will come out. If you guys are not subscribers here at RG, you can get 10% off. Not 10% off, $10 off your first month. Devin does not realize. You're not muted. Devin's got a hot mic. He doesn't realize it. Oh, okay. I thought you were talking to.
It's not distracting at all.
Devin's like, Dean's got to get off air. I got to set up Crunch Time. Yeah, that's the thing. Hit the like button. We much appreciate that. It helps out the channel. Subscribe, turn on notifications. That was Grant. That was Devin. That was Basketball. I was Dean. We're out of here. Holler!